It's not that damn easy.
It's not that easy to color and drawing Kirby, you're saying?
No.
Okay. Hello, everybody. This is Milesluigi. This is a bit of a Christmas special I'm doing where we're going to be playing through the entire Kirby's Adventure on the original NES. And today I'll be playing through Kirby's Adventure with guest commentary by...
The Evilpoptart, who's never actually finished this damn game.
And Higsby, who has 100%ed this game in the past.
Bastards.
We're going to have a lot of fun here, but I kind of want to make this Christmas special for two reasons. A, Evilpoptart hasn't seen this whole game, and this was my first Kirby game, actually. So I'm like, I'm going to show this whole game to Evilpoptart. Bam, you're watching Kirby's Adventure the entire way through.
Now, there's a backstory before everybody starts screaming at me like, oh my god, Evilpoptart, what are you talking about? I had Kirby's Dream Land 1 and 2 for the Game Boy. I never was able to get this on the NES, even though I had asked for it for Christmas and everything. I mean, I had asked everybody. Now, I eventually ended up borrowing the game from a friend, but I never actually, you know, he'd want it back because he was playing through it, and he had everything to do with it too. So, that's why I've never really played this game. And it just got lost in my memory banks, and it got lost in time, and I forgot about it.
Okay. I just picked up the secret UFO hidden in World 1. So I could cheese the rest of the game if I wanted to, but I won't. I'll just use it for the rest of this level. The interesting story with this game and why I remember this game so fondly myself actually has to do with the fact that when this game came out, you know, the SNES was out at the time, it was like 1993-ish, but for me, this was actually my first game as a Christmas present.
Huh.
Believe it or not. Like, the actual first game I could say I legitimately owned, it wasn't my dad's or anyone else, was Kirby's Adventure. So in a sense, this is like my first, not the first game I ever played, but the first game I ever owned. So kind of a bit of a nostalgic thing for me. And the fun thing is, when I first played through Kirby's Adventure, when I was that young, I actually never tried swallowing enemies, so I always just went through the game like this.
Now, see, I've had a similar experience, except mine was Kirby's Dream Land for the Game Boy. So this brings back a lot of memories, because it's very similar. It uses the same sprites. It pretty much uses the same engine for it, just a little prettier backgrounds and stuff. But, I mean...
Alroom.
Hey!
Hey! So, I mean, other than the HUD and everything, just minimized for Kirby's Adventure on the original Game Boy, this is pretty much a huge nostalgic run for me.
I think this will be a huge nostalgic run for everyone, admittedly. It's like, this is... Like, the first Game Boy game was on the Game Boy, but the first, like, Kirby game that has his iconic ability to get abilities from enemies came from this game.
Yeah, it's really weird, because when you look at it, you would think that the NES Kirby game would come before the Game Boy one, but as you mentioned, this was a really late NES game coming out in 1993. And yeah, it actually wasn't Kirby's first appearance.
There we go. Now this guy gives us the Crash ability. This was... Ooh, I want that. Even though Crash isn't really all that useful in this area, I still want to have Crash right now. Because I can go like this. Bye-bye, everyone on screen. Bye-bye, Crash.
There's a couple items in the game that kind of destroy everything on the screen.
No, see, and that's where this kind of comes in. I don't remember the chronological order, but this didn't come out until Kirby's Dream Land for the Game Boy was first.
Yes.
Yes.
And then this one came out. So that's why you get to see, like, you know, you got Beam, and you've got the Crash ability, and then you've actually got Sword in this game. So it's always was kind of confusing which one came beforehand, but obviously they made improvements on it and then made this one for the NES.
I'm really surprised that this ended up coming out on the NES, because it was like 1993, Super Mario World had already been out.
Yeah, the
this
NES
is almost
went in...
like a Game Boy. You know, why didn't this come out on Game Boy?
Well, the Game Boy just couldn't handle this. I mean, if you look at Kirby's Dream Land on the Game Boy, it's like, what, 4 or 5 levels? So, this is a lot bigger and more complicated than that.
True, true.
But yeah, the NES went into 1994, with Star Tropics 2 being the second last game, and Wario Woods being the very last game for it. So it still trucked on for a little bit after the Super Nintendo was released. But yeah, 93 is still pretty late.
But still, it had a really good... The thing going for the original Nintendo, even before the Super NES, it had a really good library, and it had a huge following. It was the console in the home for the 90s, pretty much. I mean, early 90s. It was pretty much everybody had one. Even,
oh, yeah.
Even a major thing was how big it was in Japan with the Viacom.
Yeah, the Famicom was awesome. That even had things like the disc system, which never came.
And yeah, this console basically lived a very, very, very long time. My dad has one. My dad's old NES still works, however you have to fight with it to work, because whenever you put in a cartridge, it'll always like flash on the screen, just a single solid color a couple of times, then you have to blow in the cartridge, keep trying until it finally decides to work.
No blowing in the cartridge! No blowing in the cartridge! I swear to freaking God, you blow in cartridges, I'm gonna... Yes, I know that's what we did in the 90s, but we're adults now, and we now know that ruins them.
But does the moisture, like, yeah, I mean, the whole complaint is the whole moisture thing, but is there not the chance that that some way, you know, makes the connection better because, you know, it conducts better or anything like that?
Yes, that's exactly what it does. It puts moisture in the cart and it makes the connectivity on the gold pads better. But in hindsight, it also corrodes them and makes them dirty.
But the argument that it doesn't do anything isn't valid, because there's some people who are like, oh, don't blow in it because it doesn't help at all. It does help, but yes, it does have that negative side effect.
It can help sometimes, other times it's not. Most likely, everybody compares it to taking the cartridge in and out just to get a better contact, because that's what you do anyway when you blow on it. But ultimately, it has its plus and minuses to me.
I mean, I'd argue as a guy who has played way more NES than most people out there, I would definitely say that, you know, you're trying to get a game to work for like 5 minutes, and then I've had that time where it's like, okay, fine, I give in, and I blow into the cartridge, and then that next time it will work. Like, it's just...
Yeah.
It can't just be coincidence.
No, it does.
I hate doing it. And I mean, I always try cleaning it and stuff first, but it's just like, I'm fed up, and then you blow and it's like, it's working now, so... I don't know.
It sounds like in this case, Milesluigi's Nintendo, it's got a pin bent on it, and
yeah.
In my collecting of cartridges games, including my MVS for my Neo Geo, I learned a lot about. I mean, I've replaced them before too. You can get, you know, NOE replacement cartridge slots now for the Nintendo and for the Super Nintendo, and you know, easily replace those, and it's like good as new.
Well, you see, the biggest problem with the NES is just the way it is overall, because you put the cartridge in, and then you have to push it down. So if you leave a cartridge in there for a long time pushed down, it's going to be constantly bending the pins.
Yep.
To the point where it becomes really loose, and then you have a hard time making a connection there. The Game Genie is also a huge offender, because the board for the Game Genie is bigger than a normal NES cartridge board. So if you use your Game Genie a lot, you're screwing up your pins.
Yep, it stretches the pins.
That was the problem with my NES as a kid, because I didn't realize that, and I used the Game Genie a few times, and I would just leave it in there for like weeks. And then what happened was the games would never work unless I was using the Game Genie with them. So what I would do is I'd have to put the Game Genie in and then just not use any codes if I actually didn't want to use the Game Genie. So that's the only way I could get the game to work. So NES had its problems for sure.